Howdy, it's tubalcain again, and yes, you're right. I did go to another public auction, and I was indeed number 58. I didn't buy a whole lot, perhaps $100 worth, and it was a huge auction. Hit and miss engines, tractors, just endless quantities of stuff. Much of it garbage. They had to sell engines and a machinist, and so I did buy a few things, but among them I bought this machinist toolbox, and it's kind of a mystery. We'll go through that in a second. It's not going to be real great, and I didn't pay a lot for it, but let me show you the other things that I did buy first, and then we'll get back to this, and I'll go through it piece by piece and I haven't looked at it myself, so that it'll be fun together, I think. Stand by. First of all, I did get this organizer here, and there's a lot of these at every auction, and I like to look through them and take this $2, take out the things I want, and then often it's just a mess, you know, where somebody has taken something apart and there's a hodgepodge of screws that, you know, aren't new, but I have a million screws, so I don't need them, and you know, and I will try to give this away to somebody, but people seem to get upset when I throw something away or I denigrate it. But you cannot believe the quantity of stuff that I run across, and there is no value to it. You know, that's $1, and it came with another big pile, and there were dozens of other containers. And I do understand some of you live in the middle of Utah in a desert, and you don't get to see all this stuff. But in the Midwest here, where we used to be an industrial area, there's just an awful lot of this stuff, and I can't keep it all. I just can't. The quantity is too great. So, all right, enough of that. But you can see where I'm coming from. That I have no way to redistribute it. I know that some of you live in Central Africans and would love to have something like this, but I can't get that to Central Africa. First of all, I don't know why I bought it, but I had to have this siren, and I haven't tried it yet. I suspect it's probably 6 volt, and there are a couple of wires there. Maybe, I don't know what that came off of, whether it would be like a squad car, but I always was interested in sirens. I hope it works, because I paid way too much for it. There must have been a tag on there at one time. I see some rivet holes, but I know this seems stupid, but I simply have to try out that siren. So I'm going to put my earphones on, ear protectors. And I told you that it was a 6 volter because it looks so old. And I'm standing next to the 8N here, which of course has 6 volts. So let's hook it up and childishly see if it works. Now, anybody out there can tell me what brand this is? I told you the tag is missing, and might it have come off of a police car? I don't think it's big enough to be on a police car. Yeah, I remember seeing these on motorcycles. Do any of you remember that in the olden days? Particularly on the highway patrol with Broderick Crawford. So again, another childish thing that I bought that I don't need, but I had to have it. And you know, I ought to in some video show how it works if I could figure it out myself. I know it's just slicing the air or something like that. So alright, I hope you like my little siren. Quite heavy. That's not what I really wanted to show you. Here's a $5 box with a piece of brass. That's a 2-cylinder distributor, which I think probably came off of a Wisconsin engine. I don't know. I suppose that's scrap. John Deere light switch. Looks like it's new. Boy, I got a lot of these already, and Yeah, it's got two tips. Probably the third one is broken. It's kind of beat up. A lot of the stuff was beat up. Some of these CO2 cartridges. This is a nice little set of Cooper needle files. Kind of dirty. Everything was kind of dirty. All right. Those are end mills. I'll dump those out in a second. But these are all terminals, electrical terminals, which you can't get enough of. So I like those. Also terminals and some thread lock with high strength, but I suppose that's out of date. I don't really know. We'll see. All right, let me dump out these end mills here and see if they are any good. Now at this auction there were buckets and barrels of drill bits and reamers. The quantity was almost astounding. Entire toolboxes you couldn't lift, filled with drill bits, big, small, dull, broken, and you know, just had no value. I didn't buy any of that stuff, but here's the end mills. Let's see what the electric, some of you are going to say, don't treat your end mills, you're going to dull them. Well, all right, they've been, there's a pretty good size one. These look pretty good. 4-fluter. Yeah, these are good. That one's dull. There's some dull ones here. There's some broken ones. There's no, I think, you know, that's a good little lot. I'll sort through those at my leisure, and then when I have my open house, if I do, I'm going to just make up some job lots, you know, because some people say, don't throw the dull ones away. Well, I have no use for dull ones. I cannot resharpen them. I don't want to resharpen them because I have so many. I have a lifetime's worth. Well, this one, Hills Brothers. Those are all electrical terminals. Lots of them. So, pretty good box. All right, let's move on. All right, here's a box that's got some brand new Craftsman strap wrenches. I think I already got those, but it looks like he took the smaller one out and probably used it. But I did something that I don't think I've ever done before at an auction. I bid on the wrong box. The man held this up, and I thought it was another box, and I ended up, and I spent too much money on some C-clamps I don't need, and there was one other real long clamp there. So this was my pouting disappointment for the day. At the auction there were about 4 or 5 lathes, including a Logan, but I noticed that it had broken back gears, or broken teeth, and I thought, boy, that's something I don't want. So, not that I needed another Logan lathe. I wasn't going to bid on it, but there was indeed a small Atlas milling machine, horizontal, and I did bid on it, but I was outbid, and then I was glad I didn't have to load it. All right, here's a box. There weren't a whole lot of machinist tools. So here was a box of, you know, again, I don't know if they're used or not. Just Chinesium, of course. Some chucks, which I have no interest in. Where's some chuck keys and assorted. But what I wanted out of this box, that's a good end mill, was this whole box of, I guess I'll dump this. This is all high-speed steel. In very useful sizes, 1/4, 3/8, 5/16. Nice lot, and even some 3/16. Not that I use a lot of high-speed steel anymore, but you know, where are you going to get that? You know, the old American-made high-speed steel. So that's why I bought this box. There's a T-slot cleaner. I bought this box strictly because I saw these Starrett items, but there's a bunch of these cheap drill things, and you know, I don't know how somebody manages to break stuff like that. I really don't. This man who passed away, no, he's in a nursing home, was very well revered in the community where they have old engines. Well, there's kind of a beat up V-block, but that's pretty useful, really. All kinds of dividers. There's a Pexto. I do like the Pexto products. Wing divider. And this is, I believe, a Sterret. I think they call this the Fay pattern. This is just so beautifully made. Just beautifully made. About an 8-incher. Here's a caliper. There's a name. That's a Pexto. Pexto. There's kind of a beat up old outside caliper. Some of those. Nice little Sterret. Yeah, it's a Sterret. Craftsman. There's a Sterret. Needs a little Earl. You know what those are. That's Chinesium. Not worth talking about. There's a feeler gauge. Okay, but this is really why I bought the box. Sterret center finder. Well, I already got one. So it's a wiggler is what it is. It's all the parts. Just a little bit of rust maybe or corrosion on that. That'll clean up. And this will clean up with some thinner. I don't like all that grease on those packages. But here is a set of Sterret. There's 5 of them. Nice. Need oil. They need oil. Telescoping gauges. So that's a nice find. I like those. I like that Sterret stuff. You know I do. And you do too. Admit it. You know, I have a wonderful wife, and she went with me yesterday, and she bought a few things too. Even though this was a man's auction, there's always a few things there for women, and so she enjoyed it. And believe it or not, it was her birthday, and there's no place she'd rather be than with the great tubalcain, you know, at an auction. No, I'm serious. She loves going to auctions, and she would have preferred that over going to Marshall Field's store or something like that. All right, there were 2 boxes. I paid $25 for this box, but it was kind of sight unseen because the 2 boxes were in the middle of the hay rack with stuff piled around, so there was just no chance to preview it or even see that the boxes were there. So literally when they got to that point, the man opened this up like this, and it was very heavy, extremely heavy, so he couldn't lift it up, and he got the door open. And this isn't a Kennedy box. I don't know what kind it is. It's a cheap one. But, and he just pulled some of the drawers open like that the best he could. So I bid on it, and it's a pig in the poke, 25 bucks. I got outbid on the other one. It was 50 bucks. And the man that outbid me on the other one, I couldn't lift this. He said, and he's so nice. I see him at all the auctions, and he carried it over for me where my pile was. So I couldn't lift it. And I have to admit, I did open it and pull out a few heavy things and throw them away right there on the spot because I couldn't move the thing. But let me go through this drawer by drawer here, and you can vicariously enjoy or not enjoy what I find here. And it isn't great, but it's fun to do. Let's start with the top here, and this has been a summer of auctions and garage sales around here, much more than what I usually see, and this will be my last sale. But because I just like doing this, other than working in my shop, there's nothing that I enjoy much more. And so, all right, let's get started here. Here's a caliper, a Chinesium, probably doesn't work. Still got the directions. You've seen these. I think they sell them at Horror Freight. Oh, it comes on. Well, sure enough. It works. All right. Move on here. Here's a micrometer. There weren't very many measuring tools, really, at this auction. Either that or the family kept them, a 0 to 1 Central. Centrals aren't bad micrometers. That's not the man's garage sale, or the man who is in the nursing home. It's somebody else. So he would have bought that at a sale, I suppose. And Yeah, there we got some wood boring bits, glass bits. There's some indicators here. Here's a sterret, but the crystal is missing, the crown or whatever you want to call it, but it seems to work. And here's a federal. Oh, is that dirty? And a baker. Oh, a baker's made in India. Those I don't care about. Little C-clamp. Antique spark plug. Two-piecer. There's some bolt dies, chasers. Some hacksaw blades. There's a vernier made in Sweden. Don't care for those. Magnifier, that's broken. Set that aside. Another C-clamp. All right, there's a dividers. Might even be a major brand. Cannot read it. Oh, I like, that's a little sterret. I've got one of those. I love these. The proportions are magnificent on that. Just magnificent. Oh, Dunlap. My Dunlap disease has been better lately. A wing divider, probably, yeah, Pexto. Boy, there's another, I believe, Fay pattern sterret. Generic. Some stock. I think that's a leather punch. There is, I believe that's a Stanley trammel point, but I only see one of them. Maybe I'll find the other one. On. There's a die, another divider. I think that's a sterret. I gotta wipe it off. Another set of chasers. Let's see, just a lot of junk here. It's got a, there's the key. I wonder if that fits the lock. Oh boy, look at this. Oh man, I don't believe it. You know what, I'm going to cover up the name because that's the same name. That's the man that is in the nursing home. There is his dog tag, Protestant, his serial number. And you know what? I'm going to cover that up for privacy. You know how I love these veterans. You know, to think the man was old enough to where he would either been in the Korean War or World War II. I'm not sure, but look, he wore it long enough to where it broke through. A dog tag, man. Oh, the family ought to have that. All right. You know, I almost started to tear up. Okay, I got to move on and not think about that. A sleeve, number 1 to number 2. That's about it on the top. You know, there's no more hacksaw blades, but you know, a lot of junk. This gets to be a catch-all in the top of a man's toolbox. Let's move down to the drawers. I interrupt the toolbox tour to show you what my wife bought for $1. This whole box of steel wool and you know, there's 3 brand new emery cloth packages, lots of different belts. Even if they don't fit my sanders, I can, you know, break those. And there's all kinds of steel wool. That's bronze wool, marked $5 or something. So this is all steel wool. Must be a dozen bundles of it, and then there's more abrasives right here. So sometimes you find real good buys like this and nobody bids on them, and it came with other stuff. You know, there's a whole pile of stuff. I'm telling you, sometimes this stuff is so cheap that I tend not to value it because I get it so cheap. Anyway, all right, let's get back to the toolbox. I needed a break from the emotion that I felt with that dog tag. And yes, that was the key. It's surprising, and I don't see a name on the box. Yes, I do. There's a name up here, a decal. I'll see if I can decipher it off camera. But the funny thing about this toolbox, there's no stops. The drawers just pull right out. No track, so I don't think it was an expensive one. But let me go through these drawers one at a time on this table. Almost nothing worth showing in this drawer. It's just about empty. And that decal on the box, it says S&K Tools. I did not know that S&K made a machinist chest, so good to know, but it doesn't look like a real quality box. So there we got a 6-inch scale. It isn't much. That's a Starrett. Oh, there's his name on it. Not in real good shape. Either a Starrett, yeah, that's a Starrett, but it's missing the scribe, and a couple drill gauges, a Dunlap, and a Starrett number gauge. Little rusty, that probably will clean up. That's all that's in that drawer, you know, just a few other little pieces of junk there, and some salt for a sandwich. Drawer 2, it looks like mainly cutting tools, but there is a Starrett scriber, and all kinds of taps, a lot of taps, but again, there were tens of thousands of taps, but many of them the same size. There was can after can of, let's say, 3/8 taps. Possibly they were used, came from a factory, you know, and every one is dull. I don't know. There's some little points files, and I don't know what that is. All kinds of taps, all used, of course, so questionable. There's a easy out, but those look like good taps. So there's a lot of useful cutting tool there. There's a little file and a little hone. And the foam on, or felt or whatever it is on the bottom of the drawer is disintegrated and kind of messy, but that's drawer 2 for what it's worth. Here's drawer 3, and you know, I like doing this. And I hope you don't think this is like looking through a man's pockets, but I mean, when somebody goes to a nursing home or dies, including myself, you know, somebody's just going to have the material, unless it's just taken right to the landfill. So there we got saber saw blades and a few brand new taps still in the package. Hansen brand. There's a, what is that? Oh, that's a Fowler. That's a Fowler. Some more. He had a lot of scales, didn't he? Starrett. That looks like a nice one. Lufkin, that's a Lufkin. I'll get those all cleaned up, and then, you know, there's a, oh shoot, there's a couple more. All kinds of them. That's a General. This is a Lufkin hook ruler. I like those a lot. In this drawer, a lot of small drills, a lot of small taps, I mean a lot. Even more scales. Now why would you keep a broken one like that, I don't know. You know what, this piece belongs on this ruler. It appears to be used for sharpening drills. It's a drill gauge, but it's broken. Is everybody happy? Walton tap extractor. This is not broken. That's a miracle. Maybe there's some more there. There's another scriber. Oh man. Alright, that's a pretty good drawer. Pipe tap. Alright. I'm not dissatisfied. Here's the first long drawer. Well, let me say a couple things here. First of all, there was a couple big old flat belt lathes, and there also was a Hendy lathe that I think sold for $200 or $300. But some of the flat belt lathes have no value. There was a scrap man there who I know well. I like him, but he bought it for I think $40 for scrap, a big lathe. But I mean, Nobody wants the old flat belt ones that you can't lift and you can't put them in your basement or your garage. So, all right. And another thing now, at the end of, 5 minutes from now, tell me what you would have paid for this box, or tell me what you think the value is of all of the tools in this box. That'd be kind of fun for both of them, because some of you are going to say, oh, you paid way too much. That's $4 worth. Others are going to say, I'd have given $100 for that. So I don't know. There's a little wooden tray that somebody made with all kinds of little button dies, and going all the way down to, let's see, there's a 6, a 5, a 4. So it goes down to 4. A little bit of rust on some of them. There's a die stock that's got the adjustable collet on it. And quite a few large taps. For instance, that's a pipe tap, 1 1/4 inch. Yeah, these are all... See, the man had old engines, so they used pipe threads. These are all pipe taps, I think. Oh, here's a morphodite I've never seen. Hermaphrodite. Lay those aside. I have never seen one like this. This is probably from a factory, and I don't know what kind of taper or how that is held, but there is a drill followed up by the tap, all in one piece, and that is a pipe tap. Looks like about a 3/4 or a 1 inch. I'm not going to take the time to read it. Mueller is the brand. I've never seen one. Well, what I don't get is you'd have to run it fairly fast for the drill part, and then have it slower for the tap. So I don't know. That's unusual. Never seen one. A lot more button dies. More. Oh shoot! There are a lot of pipe taps. A lot of them. Shoot. You know what that would cost? I don't know. More than I'd want to pay. This is kind of neat. There's a little, it's called an Ajax drill stand for number drills, and it folds out. Isn't that neat? Yeah. Probably the bits are all dull, but I've seen this in a different brand. Ouch, just pinched myself. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. That's worth the price of admission. Yeah, I don't like those one bit. Look at that, case. There were a lot of military things there, electrical things. A lot of old motors, DC motors, 100-year-old electric motors. Some of those went for a pretty good price. There's some drills, tap, there's a tap wrench. Oh, dies, button dies. A whole pill bottle full of dies. And yet more taps. Jeepers, a lot of taps. Oh, there's a Lufkin 12-inch rule. Flexible, but not satin chrome and a little corroded, but you know how I love my Lufkin tools. I guess I said that's generic. That's pretty much it on that drawer, but that's a nice drawer. Huh. Okay, let's take a look at the very last drawer. Now remember, I haven't gone through these drawers myself, so it's kind of exciting for me. Here's a bottle of oil that says Parkometer mechanism oil. You don't suppose that was for parking meters? I wonder. I'm going to smell it. I'm not liking the smell. Did parking meters need oil? Oh, I'm having a laugh. There's a bundle of Swedish 10-inch blades. Can't read the name. Dunlap. Not liking it too much. There's another scriber, either a Craftsman or a Starrett. A lot of files. Oh, I like these threading files. Rethreading. Alright, got all kinds of files, some dull, I suppose, some sharp, more hacksaw blades. There's another die stock. Oh, another one of those. A lot of files. A lot of files. Another new tap. Three-corner file, rat tail file, more blades. Some old spark plugs. Power hacksaw blade. Diston. Not liking these files too much. I like a good file handle. Oh, a lot more blades. Some used. Some used. I believe that's a diamond point. I talked about those, or I was going to talk about them in a video. Hex key. A lot more files. There's some dies hidden down here. A piece of key, some key stock. No great surprises. Chisel. Not a good drawer. At least not in northern Illinois. It's not a good. Broken tang on that file. Somebody pried with it. There's a knife type file. So there's some interesting files there if I get them all cleaned up and decide what's good and what isn't. Alright, that concludes this video and this toolbox tour. Hope you liked that as much as I enjoyed doing it and looking through it myself. And I've never before bought a pig in the poke like this without being able to examine it, you know, going through every drawer. However, if a fella does that, and this was out in the open, and somebody could examine every drawer, it might have gone for a lot more. I really don't know. I'm just, that's conjecture. But there's the S&K label, the diamond. Barely readable. That's probably a 70-year-old box, but I like a Kennedy box. But anyway, that concludes this auction. Hope that I can go to, I know I contradict myself, I hope I can go to some more this summer, but I just enjoy them so much. There's no better way of spending a day, and I meet a lot of people that I know and, you know, friends, so it's a social time too, and you have a hot dog or a corn dog or something else that's bad for you, and it's just a fun day. It was sunny and hot, so yeah, a fella had to try to get in the shade. All right, thank you very much for watching, and now let me conclude by saying that in the comments, tell me what this box would have been worth to you if you were at the auction. Did I get hosed or did I get a bargain? Granted, there's not a thing in there that I don't already own 10 of, and there seems to be some anger built up among people saying, you know, you got so much already, you know. Well, so what am I supposed to do? Stand with my hands in my pocket and not bid, you know, or not enjoy it? And, you know, some of this stuff will get recirculated to other people, and that's, all right, that's a little rant in itself. So, all right, what is this box worth to you? Thank you very much for watching. Watch my many other videos. I made a lot of videos this summer. And I'll see you on my next adventure.